Michael Yardney here, and welcome to another Rich Habits, Poor Habits webcast. This week, we're going to do part 2 of the 19 traits of negative people. Welcome, Tom Corley.
Hey, Michael, it's good to be back.
Now, Tom, last week we started to discuss the results of your rich habits study, where you studied the success habits of the rich and the poor habits of the poor. You've written a number of books on it, and we jointly have written Rich Habits, Poor Habits, which is doing really well. If one of the viewers here hasn't actually got their own copy of Rich Habits, Poor Habits, go to Amazon and you can get a copy, or go to our website, richhabitspoorhabits.com, and you can get your own copy. Now, Tom, we started last week by discussing the 19 traits of negative people that you found in your study. And last week we discussed pessimism, the concept that negative people have got self-doubt, they've got fears, they're constantly worrying, and they gossip. So this week I'd like to go through a few more of those, but we all have some positive thoughts and some negative thoughts. We also have some poor habits and some rich habits. So if people come across and hear these things as we discuss them, what should be going through their mind?
Well, I want the people to understand this, and I have studies that back this up. Almost 100% of the thoughts that we have are negative thoughts. This is intentional. It's the brain's radar system. It's its alert system. The reason you're getting these negative thoughts is because the brain is very cautious and it's trying to protect you. It's trying to say, beware of this, be careful of that. It's like I said, the radar system. So negative thoughts are natural. They're never going to go away. The important point is that if you want to be successful, you have to suppress those negative thoughts, sort of put them on the bookshelf like you got the books behind you, and say, you know what, I know you're there. I know I have negative thoughts, but I'm not going to really think about that right now and focus on that.
So the negative thoughts in some ways are protective, but they're going to keep you in your comfort zone, which in many ways for many people is discomfort, but it's still going to stop you getting to the next level, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, it's going to stop you in your tracks. We all have a circle. I like to say we all live inside a circle. And what successful people do is they push against the sides of that circle by doing things that are outside their comfort zone. They take risks. They do new things, novel things. They're pushing at the sides of their circle, and by default, their circle becomes larger and larger, and their comfort zone becomes bigger and bigger. And this is why it's so important that you don't give in to all of this negativity, because it'll keep your circle very small.
I love that analogy. That's really good. So let's look at a couple more of those 19 traits of negative people that you've come up with in your Rich Habit study. The next negative habit then I'd like to discuss today, Tom, is that of deceit. Negative people are deceitful.
Yeah, and this comes from the feeling of scarcity. They are deceitful because they believe everybody is trying to outmaneuver them. Everybody's trying to take their money. So they feel they have to outmaneuver other people. They're operating from a mindset of scarcity. So if you're operating from a mindset of abundance, then you're not going to be deceitful, because you don't need to be fooling people and deceiving people. You believe in yourself. You believe that there's abundance out there, and you're going to get it. The people who are deceitful, they don't believe there's abundance out there. They believe they have to cheat, lie, and steal in order to get what is very scarce.
And of course, if you believe that, that's what your world's going to be like, very scarce. On the other hand, if you believe that there's abundance, you're going to live a joyful, abundant life. Tom, you also found that negative people get angry very quickly.
Yeah, I think anger is the most costly emotion. Anger can get you fired. Anger can get you demoted. Anger could cause you to lose relationships. It could damage your family life, your marriage. Anger is probably the worst, most costly emotion we can have. It's probably the number one emotion that you need to control. And if your parents didn't do a good job making you control your anger, make a habit of controlling your anger, like a lot of self-made millionaires have the a habit of controlling their anger. If they didn't teach you that, and you go out into the real world and you have this uncontrolled anger, you're going to find yourself isolated very quickly.
Tom, negative people tend to complain a lot too, don't they?
Yeah, they're complaining because they're negative. They're looking at the glass half empty in their life. Somebody is always trying to eat their lunch. They're trying to, behind their back, talk bad about them. So this is a big problem. Complaining. All that complaining does, it's a domino effect. It feeds on itself, and people don't want to be around complainers. So eventually, what you're going to find is people pushing back and not wanting to build a relationship with you because you're a complainer.
Similar to complaining is criticizing. It's much the same, but it's a bit different. Negative people tend to criticize too, don't they?
Yeah, and there's some criticism that is good. It's called constructive criticism. Where negative people, poor people go off the rails is destructive criticism. Sometimes their criticism is actually they're trying to be sarcastic and funny at the same time, and they're using this criticism, this negative criticism, to make a point and be funny. That actually does more harm than good, and it's not funny. It's actually destroying relationships. So it's something you have to avoid.
Tom, underlying a lot of these things that you've been talking about seems to be the concept of jealousy or envy. That's another trait of negative people.
Yeah, this is another thing that is born from scarcity. I remember before I had wrapped up my Rich Habits research, I used to drive my daughter, Casey, my youngest, to her friend's house, and her friend's parents had this huge house. Michael, it had to be about 6,000 square feet. Now, my house is 3,000 square feet, about 2,900 square feet. So whenever I would drive up to that house, I would become envious. But then I finished doing my Rich Habits research, and I had this epiphany, and I said, that person, those parents, probably have a mortgage twice the size as mine. They have utility bills that are twice the size. Their standard of living, their cost of living is twice mine. And wouldn't you know it, Michael, that when 2008, 2009 hit, they had to immediately sell their home because the business he was in, the construction business, basically fell off the cliff. And he had to buy a home that is not even half the size of my home. So envy is a very negative emotion. And you just don't, it comes from scarcity. You have to believe, hey, you know what? I'm grateful for what I have, and I have to believe that I'm going to be successful in life. So that doesn't bother me. Actually, I'm happy for that person. I hope that they get to keep their wonderful, big, beautiful home.
Sure. I think that's another trait of successful people, that they're not jealous of other people. They actually are not envious of other people's success. They are actually pleased for successful people. But that's because they're grateful for what they've got at the moment. So another of the traits that underlying a lot of what you're talking about is that these people are not grateful. Negative people aren't grateful. You cannot be wealthy unless you're grateful, no matter how many properties you've got, how big your business is, how big your stock portfolio is. If you're not grateful for what you've got, you won't be wealthy. On the other hand, you may only have a small business. You may not have a big real estate or stock portfolio, but if you've got your health and you've got somebody to love and you love somebody, you can be a very, very wealthy person, Tom.
Yeah, and the point, I'm glad you brought up gratitude. Gratitude is the gateway to happiness. Envy is the gateway to unhappiness. So if you're envious, you're going to be unhappy. If you turn that around and you start looking at your life and say, you know what, I'm just happy I have two legs. I'm happy that my car works. You start looking at the little things in your life and become grateful for them. That starts to make you happy. And because, as I said, gratitude is the gateway to happiness.
Okay. Another concept I'd like to discuss in these 19 negative traits of negative people is condemnation. Negative people put down, belittle others.
Yeah, and that's because they really internally feel inadequate. So when they're putting other people down or condemning them, what they're trying to do is push people down so that they can feel superior to them. They do that to make themselves feel superior because they don't feel superior. And instead of them working really hard every day and just trying to push the ball up the hill and do the best job that they possibly can, their mindset is the circumstances are outside my control. My circumstances are outside my control. So the only thing I have control over is diminishing other people and debasing other people, making them feel little. And trust me, the people that are worth their salt are going to remember that and try and avoid you like the plague.
Sure. It comes back to what you said a moment ago about feeling you're in control or not. Psychologists tell us that the more we feel in control of various elements of our lives, the happier we are, the more successful we will become. So one of our lessons in our book, Rich Habits, Poor Habits, is to become the pilot of your life, to become in control of your life, rather than to be a passenger and be dragged along. Tom, thank you. I'm really enjoying this chat of the 19 traits of negative people. Not that I'm talking about negative people, but it reminds us what we shouldn't do, because you learn as much from what you shouldn't be doing as learning from the traits of what you should be doing. So, Tom, we'll come back next week and discuss the last of them. Is that okay?
That sounds great to me, Michael. Thanks.